Hey guys, welcome to video number 2 of the 3-part video series where we are talking about your biggest joy thieves. I'm Bonnie Kelly and we're here with Jillian. Hey girlfriend.
Hello.
So as you guys know, we are Rebels for Joy, here to align your purpose, passion, and power, all fueled by joy. So in this video, we are talking about the 5 perceptions that are some of the biggest joy thieves. So the next video that comes out is going to talk about the 4 behaviors, right? Mm-hmm. So these are the P, B, and J. So if you didn't watch the first video, you might want to go back. We talked about the peanut butter and jelly sandwich, right? Which is the perceptions and the behaviors that are the sticky peanut butter that are robbing us of the juicy jelly of joy. And so we need to make a new peanut butter and jelly sandwich. And that's where we're going to kickstart it today. So
yeah. And so let's talk about perceptions. Like, what even are perceptions? Well, my definition, I don't have Webster's dictionary here with me, Bonnie, but like my perception or my definition of perception is like, this is the way I see it. This is the way I'm taking it in. And usually perceptions are based off of past experiences because that's kind of the proof that you're given about how things are, how things have to be or should be, or maybe they are because they've always been that way. That's kind of my definition. Do you have anything to add to that for a perception?
So perceptions a lot of times are based on personal assumptions. And the definition of assumption, I know, is something that we accept as certain or true to happen without proof.
Yeah.
All right. So if we really think about that, that last key point right there is without proof, without evidence. So we accept that says like whatever the story is, that we're perceiving things in a certain light, in a certain way, that this is what happened as factual. Mm-hmm. We're not taking into consideration that there's a lot of assumptions that were made on that because there's so many other components that your brain is filtering out. Now, I'm going to drop a brain nerd on you for a moment.
Please do. And this is the MEP stuff, right? This is Bonnie and her ninja-ness. It's so good.
Mental and emotional. So just if you can just imagine this for a second. Mm-hmm. Every second, your mind is getting bombarded with 400 billion bits of information per second. Mm-hmm. But the brain is only capable of accepting 2,000 of that 400 bits. So there was just a 400 billion bits of information just got bombarded at you within that 12 second or per second, 12 seconds. So what's 400 billion times 12? It's a lot.
A lot.
Okay? I'm not a mathematical genius. All right. No. It's beyond trillions, I'm sure. Right. Like, I mean, it's a big number. So that's 400 billion, but your brain was only capable of accepting 2,000 bits per second. You feel me on this?
Yeah.
So that's 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, just in the first, like 10,000 in the first few seconds.
Yeah.
So what that is telling you, here's the trippiest part, is that the brain hand selects which 2,000 of the 400 billion it's going to register, which means that there's an infinite amount of possibilities of how you could be perceiving any given second, infinite amount of possibilities, which means that if there's 1,000 people watching this video right now, each one of you has a unique experience of what you're perceiving from the information that's been provided for you. You're going to remember different pieces. Maybe you noticed that the garbage man was just taking out the trash more than you noticed what I just said, right? Maybe you noticed like the trees that are changing colors or whatever it is, right? Every single one of you had a different perceptual experience of the last 12 seconds. So why this is so relevant is because if your brain has been conditioned to only really fine-tune and notice negative or toxic things, then those things are what is getting registered, and that is what you're experiencing and thus robbing you of joy. Yeah. So what we want to do is we want to see where these perceptions might be harming versus helping, right? And where we need to shift them so that way they're in alignment with joy versus in alignment with misery.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so good. And like, this is why we talk about what's the story that you're telling yourself? What's the story that's associated with X, Y, or Z as to why you're not enough, why you're different. And we're going to get into that because these are some of the perceptions, but they are all based on your individual story, based on what you have taken in as truth, maybe because you've been told certain things or because certain behaviors have happened. But they may not be true. They
Yeah.
may not be true.
Yeah.
So I want to dive right into them because we want to
Yeah.
give you what they are just so you have a deeper level of awareness. And then within the 6-week masterclass, Awaken Joy, we're really going to go into these very, very deeply to allow for you to unshackle yourself, because that's what perceptions do. They bind us up. They keep us stuck. They keep us small so that we stay in this place of, I'm okay, I'm fine.
Yes.
That mediocrity way of living that we are so done with. You are a rebel for joy because it feels rebellious to be at that standard that joy is the only thing that we're living for at that point. Right?
Yeah.
We've been surviving under here, but it's time to thrive and to live a life of joy. So the 5 perceptions, the number 1 is not being enough. Enough,
Yes.
right? Like,
Yeah.
and this is good enough, smart enough, tall enough, thin enough. You fill in your
enough,
own
funny enough.
There are a billion different enoughs, right? And so what does the not being enough imply? It implies that you're too much of something else. If you're not thin enough, then you are too overweight. If you are not smart enough, then you are too dumb. And it's like, it provides this like off-kilter imbalance of the beautiful, amazing centeredness that is you. You are enough. And we know that to be true. But if you've got thoughts and feelings that are anchored in the very real feeling perception that you're not enough, your joy is going to be sucked right out of you.
Yeah. And this is probably one of the most common. In fact, you know, of all the research I've done in the 14 years I've been studying personal development, or 15, it's been a minute. But for all those years that I've been studying this, it really does boil down to, like, this is probably the most common thread that most, especially women, really struggle with. This is constant inadequacy, that I'm just not enough. Like, I just can't do it. I can't do good enough. I can't, you know, provide good enough. I'm not a good enough mother. I'm not a good enough wife. I'm not a good enough this. And that becomes the catalyst. That perception becomes the catalyst for our unworthiness.
Yeah.
And it becomes the fuel that continues to keep us either behaving, and this will be in the next video, but behaving in ways that are out of alignment with what our dreams and desires are, because our worth is constantly on the line. It's constantly on the line. And so we want to teach you to come back. So if this is you, just take note of it and fill in the blank. Like, where do you feel that you're not enough, and where does this show up? And that's going to help and serve you in how to make these shifts, because we have to identify it, and then we have to tell a new story. And if you need help with that, that's where this 6-week Awaken Joy Masterclass is going to come in. But for right now, if you're just watching this, like, that's it. Tell the story and then retell a new story. And that's what's going to help make that shift.
Yeah.
So with that being said, let's dive into the next one, because we've got 4 more to cover, and which is that I'm different or unique. So basically, this is my problems are unique or different.
I'm the only one that has this problem.
Yes. And what that is, it's the perfect excuse to say that you're too broken to be fixed. It's the perfect excuse to avoid the work. The reality is your problems aren't unique. There's someone on this planet who has had them and has overcame them. It might be the variables might be unique. The people involved, obviously, the, you know, certain variables. However, the undercurrent
of the problem,
is probably very similar. And to steal from Marie Forleo, it's totally figure outable.
Yeah, it is. And on a spiritual level, when we think that we are unique, that we are different, that our problems are we are the only one with our problems, we create separation. We create separation between everyone else on the planet, but we also create separation from source, which when we create separation, that's when the wounds start to really appear. That's when we start to feel at our most raw and vulnerable. And it's coming back to that wholeness, to that centeredness, to that truth of who we are, and saying, I'm not unique within my problems. And in fact, if there are ways to solve them, then I can do them too. It really helps to bring back that feeling of wholeness. So
absolutely,
no, you're not the only one who has ever felt this way. And as you're feeling this way, you get to remember that, oh, I get to come back to center. I get to come back to wholeness.
So again, what is the story you tell currently around why you're unique and broken? What is the purpose of it? Because most likely the purpose is to just keep you separate, to keep you, you know, to keep you safe, right? To keep you quiet, withdrawn, whatever it is. And what do you want to feel and do instead? Because you can't change if you think you're not capable of changing, right? I mean, I think Henry Ford is the one that says, whether you think you can or can't, either way, you're right. So if you think you can't, right? If you think that you're different and unique, or you're broken, or that your stuff is like too complicated or even too much, right? That I'm too much. Yeah. Okay. Then that right there is all the reasons you need to continue to stay miserable. And this is what needs to shift for us to have more joy. Yeah. All right, Jillian, let's get into the third.
Yeah. The third is lack. And so some of you may be saying, no, Jillian, that's actually not a perception. It's true that I don't have enough money, that I don't have the relationships, that I don't have this, that I don't have that. And I'm here to tell you that when you continue to stare at what you believe you don't have, you will continue to call in what you believe you don't have. Your bank account may be saying a certain amount in it, but if your perception is, I'm only going to have this amount because I'm not worthy of creating more abundance in my life, more than what I feel I have in the lacking world, then you're not ever going to do it. And so this robs us of joy, because we take a state of the state, we look at what we don't have in our life, and we say, oh, well, it's probably going to be like that tomorrow and the next day and the next day. And it's like, then you actually prepave the way in your life to continue living in lack. And we're here to tell you that that is a mighty big joy thief, because when you feel like you don't have, you don't have the capacity to bring in, you don't have the opportunities, you fill it in here, then your life is going to be filled with what you don't have and not with what you do have, or with what's coming to you.
And if we actually want to even look at the science, right? So you can go, I mean, I'm with Jillian on this, is that like, I deeply know the universe always provides, right? However, if you just want to go factual and you want to go into the science part of the lack, right? Is that what you focus on does expand. So it's no different than if you bought a brand new vehicle and you're driving it off the lot and you've never noticed that anybody else has had them before.
Yes. Yeah.
As soon as you bought it, like everybody and their mom seems to own one. Yes. It's not that they weren't there before. It's just that you weren't tuned in to notice them, because go back to the perception filters, right? So what we're saying here is that if we're stuck in a lack mindset where we're only noticing what's missing, then we're also dismissing all of the opportunities that are around us to get us out of that situation and provide abundance. Yeah. So this is where, if you want to go science or if you want to go spiritual, it doesn't matter, right? But it does boil down to, what are you focusing on? And that's what you're receiving. If you want to receive more, we need to shift this perception. Totally. Now, this leads perfectly into number 4.
Perfectly.
Which is I might not have these things, but I can't do it, Bonnie. I can't build that world-class brand. I can't take away the time from my children. I can't, you do these things because I don't have the support. I don't have this. Okay. I can't. If I go back to Henry Ford, if you think you can or can't, either way, you're right. Yeah. Either way, you're right. So this is a huge perception shift, is that if we feel like, oh, I can't do that because, you don't have the time, effort, energy, you don't have the resources, whatever it is, that ties perfectly into this lack, that I'm missing these things. Yeah. And the reality is you just may choose not to. Yeah. But there's a difference between the perception that I can't, which is meaning that I don't have a choice, in saying I could, but I choose not to. Yeah. I choose not to. So this is where we're going to take back our personal power and get out of the can't, and we're going to do or do not. There is no try.
Powerful. I like mic drop. Like, I'm just like, yeah, what she said, because that's the thing. Can you or can't you? We think you can. In fact, we know you can. Your inner being knows you can. Yeah. We got to stop the chatter up here that's keeping you small and keeping you from not taking the steps forward. And so this actually segues beautifully into number 5. And number 5 is a biggie. I should, right? I should be further ahead than I am. I should be able to do this, but I can't, right? It's like a double whammy of a joy thief right there. I should be functioning in X, Y, and Z capacity, but I'm only functioning in A, B, and C capacity. The I should. I have heard so many different fun sayings with should, but like, don't should yourself to death.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, if you're living in a world where you should something that you feel like you're not doing, that's implying that you're not doing something correct. Yeah. Essentially. And if you feel like you should be further along, if you feel like you should be able to do something, then you're shaming where you actually are in the now. You're shaming the amazing, beautiful gifts that you have in this current moment. And what that's doing is halting you from being able to move forward and to be able to grow and expand. If we can't appreciate where we are now, then we are going to have a really hard time getting to where we need to go.
Yeah. And this is, I mean, Jillian's like nailing it here with the should is shame, right? This is the kickstart of the shame spiral, is when we're shoulding all over the place. And I always joke, I'm like, if you're shoulding all over the place, you need to stop, because it's starting to stink. Yes. Right? It's because should is a should bomb. I know I'm totally full of just quirky puns, but you guys love it. And this is where we want to recognize that the perception of what you should be doing, these are tied into expectations. These are tied into self, into world, into parental expectations that are constantly validating that you are missing, that you are not enough, that you are inadequate, that you are whatever. And this is where all that shame spiral and shame, okay, if we're looking at the research done by David Hawkins, right, where they were able to calibrate each emotion that we're experiencing from the most constructive to destructive, the most destructive emotion you can harbor in your body is shame, period. The most destructive, followed by guilt. They're kind of almost neck and neck with each other. But shame, and if we're shoulding all over, then we're shaming all over. Yeah. And this is what is going to really, truly drive and just eliminate our joy. Yeah. So all of these guys, if you're just watching this and you're like, well, I'm not going to join your 6-week program, that's okay. I invite you to, I encourage you to, I know the power of what shifting these can do for you. But if not, here's what you do. Focus in on what is the story around this? What is the purpose of telling them? Okay, at least doing those 3 processes is going to help you make the shift, to help you start moving. Yeah. For everyone else who's watching this is like, oh, raising your hand, saying, yes, I'm here, I know this, I feel this. I want to not even just learn, I want to dig this crap out. Yeah, let's do the work. Do the work. Okay, we start next week. November 4th is the kickstart of the first live 6-week masterclass, what is called Awaken Joy. And we really invite you to come awaken your joy in a way to have lasting results, lasting change. And that's what we're cultivating and creating together. So we invite you to do that. But thank you for being here. Any last words, Jillian?
No, I'm super excited. I'm super excited for the time of year it is, the time where the holiday season is coming up and where there's a lot of focus on how everything should be joyful. But if your perceptions are not aligning with that, then you're going to, again, feel like you're missing out, which is going to set you up for 2 months here of some pretty hard to hold emotions. And so think about that as what do the next 6 weeks for you look like? Do you want actual coaching support? Do you want to learn the tools and the how-tos? This is here for you. And we haven't even talked about the behaviors yet. So tomorrow we're going to get into the behaviors, or the next video when that comes to you, we're going to get into the behaviors. And we're just so excited to gift all this knowledge to you, but even more excited to walk you through, coach you through, guide you through how to more quickly and efficiently and beautifully and wholeheartedly start to release these thieves that do not serve you and embody the joy that is innately yours.
Yes. Amen. Cool. See you guys soon. Thank you for watching. Mwah.
Bye, guys.